Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. And I saw it probably about a week and a half ago. And going into the movie, I was hoping for the best. But it's one of those things where I didn't want to get my hopes up too much, you know. But I knew I was going to have some misgivings with the movie. Back when it came out, I didn't see it right away. I let the reviews come out there, hear what people were saying about it. And I knew, like, before this movie came out, I was going on the assumption that this movie was just going to blow Wonder Woman away from the box office. But after it came out, I saw the reviews and I was like, okay, this seems like it's 50-50. There's some people who don't like it and other people who do like it. So then when I seen it, I was like, I don't know how to judge it. I guess I got to see it for myself. And I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie ever. I'm not. It's probably not even my favorite Spider-Man movie ever. It's, I wish I didn't know the character. Let me say that. My main thing with Spider-Man Homecoming, I liked it, but I wish I was just an average moviegoer who didn't know anything about Spider-Man. Now, by me knowing damn near everything about Spider-Man, you know, that is a problem when I watch Spider-Man Homecoming, because I can't turn it off. And I don't really have a problem with Marvel. And I don't know if Marvel decided to make the character young. I'm assuming they did. Don't get me wrong. It makes sense. When you want to fit Spider-Man in their cinematic universe, you can't plop him down to like age 35. Oh, he's been Spider-Man for years, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So they had to make him a kid. They had to make him grow up in an Avengers world. The same way like how they did the comic books. The comic books, for those of you who don't know, Spider-Man came, I want to say it was after the Avengers and stuff had formed already, because I think they came first, or I think Spider-Man came in like a couple years after them. But in the comic book, timeline, I guess you could say, I think the Avengers were already established. You already had Captain America, and I think you already had Iron Man forming the Avengers and then finding Captain America at that point too. But so he was already, he was a kid at that time, even though he looked damn near like he was 18. Based on how the art and everything looked. But he was in high school coming into college. They didn't really do a whole lot of high school stuff back in the day with the original. And I'm talking about the main continuity, the 616 continuity. However, as the years went on, that's why he grew up, let's say, that's why every other hero like Captain America, Iron Man, whatever, they're like a little bit older than Peter Parker. That's why. But in the Ultimate line of comic books, he got his powers when he was 15. He was in high school, dealt with high school stuff, things like that. It makes sense to do it that way, where just like in that one, the Ultimates were already established. For those of you who don't know, in the Ultimate comic line, the Ultimates are the Avengers. So when I say the Ultimates, that's who I mean. They gave them a different name in the Ultimate line of comics. And in that one, they were already the superhero team that S.H.I.E.L.D. had. Spider-Man was growing up. They were already the heroes of the world. And I think the X-Men was already established, things like that. So it makes more sense to follow the Ultimate line of comic books and storylines, because for those of you who don't know, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they like to blend characters. They'll take certain characters from the Ultimate line and certain characters from the main Marvel continuity, and just kind of mash them together and make their versions. Like, for the most part, Iron Man in Marvel, Robert Downey Jr., his character is pretty much spot on main 616 continuity. The main Iron Man you see in Marvel comic books. That's what his character is. The only thing that they did was, in Iron Man comic books, every 5-10 years or whatever, every time they reboot it, they change his intro. Meaning the same thing happens, meaning he gets injured, has to get the reactor put in his chest, all that stuff. They just change up who the bad guys are. They change the bad guys to whoever the modern bad guys are at the time. Back in the day when he first came out, it was Southeast Asian terrorists, because we were going to war with Vietnam. Then when they made the movie, mid 2000s. Now it's Middle Easterns, you know, or Middle Eastern people and things like that. So they just update the bad guy for the most part. Captain America, his origin was pretty much like a half and half. His main origin, that follows the main continuity, 616. But his character and how he acts is his whole non-kill, you know, I don't want to kill people, homeboy mentality, that kind of sort of thing. That comes from the main 616. But he's still a soldier and will kill people in battle if he has to. That comes from his ultimate character. Because the main Captain America, he's like Superman. Like, he'll do everything in the book to try to not kill somebody. I'm not going to say he hasn't killed people in the comics, but it's probably extremely rare. You know, it's not like, you know, the Punisher or something like that. You know, Ultimate, you know, Steve Rogers, he's a soldier, first and foremost. If I'm in a combat, I'm going to do things to give me, you know, an edge in combat. Like, prime example, when the Ultimates in the Ultimate line of comic books, when they fought the X-Men, right? Wolverine, you know, we all know his brain has been brainwashed, so he doesn't know a lot of what his backstory is or a lot of his memories. When he met Captain America, just like in the main 616 continuity, they fought together in like World War II. So when Cap recognized him, he was like, oh shit, James, is that you? You know, James Howlett? Wolverine started getting flashbacks and stuff of like him meeting Captain America for the first time during the war, and it kind of shook him up for a quick second because he didn't know how to process it. He was like, where's all this coming from? How do I know you? Yada, yada, yada. And then while Wolverine was going through, you know, getting his stuff together, Captain America pulled out an assault rifle and just shot him down. And he pretty much did it because it was a tactical advantage, because he knew that Wolverine didn't know who he was based on, because they met and talked to each other, and he knew that just by initially talking to him, Wolverine was talking to him like he first seen him, like they didn't meet before. So he figured something had happened to him. So he's a lot more militaristic than, let's say, his main 616 counterpart. So when they bring in Spider-Man, you know, I'm not going to be one of those people who would be like, oh, I don't like him being as a kid because, you know, that's not the main comic books. I understand why they did it. They have to make an ongoing story. At the end of the day, no matter what they do, they're planning Spider-Man's introduction or his character in multiple movies. You have to make an ongoing story. You can't just introduce something to whatever your storyline is and have it conflict with what happened before. They can't just say, oh, Spider-Man's been a hero this whole time in New York, just that nobody knew it. It's like, come on now, that's bullshit. You have to make it consistent. So when they made him a high school student, I was like, my first fear was, oh, here we go. They're going to go through the whole high school thing all over again, right? I figured they was going to do one of those things where it's like, oh, they're going to get his power. You know, he's going to get his powers again. Uncle Ben's going to die. But I was happy to see that they didn't go through the whole origin. He was already Spider-Man, obviously, because he was in Civil War and things like that. So they didn't really rehash his heroism. You know, they didn't reconfirm that with great power comes great responsibility speech. They didn't do none of that. He was already Spider-Man. And I figured that by them taking the whole ultimate Spider-Man approach to Spider-Man, I figured they was, you know, going to do that. I was hoping they wasn't going to do it too much. Like, the reason why I don't like, let's say, the newer Spider-Man cartoons is because, like, if you guys ever seen, what was it called, Ultimate Spider-Man or whatever, I think, on television. I don't know if it's the current one, but I know it was a few years ago. That was, like, incredibly kiddie. Like, I tried to watch it, you know, because, like I said, I've been reading Spider-Man comic books for, like, you know, years. And I'm a huge fan of the character, or used to be, rather, since Marvel decided, you know, to go crazy with his character and, you know, just fuck him over. But I checked out the cartoon and it was just incredibly kiddie. Like, there was certain stuff in there I could not excuse. You know, him being a kid, fine. Him having tech and gadgets and the suit and everything, because that's probably where they got that idea from. Because in that cartoon, see. Well, let me say this first. In the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books, he never got a suit from Tony Stark. He wasn't like his understudy, or wasn't like, you know, being helped by like the Avengers. Yeah, he worked with S.H.I.E.L.D. every now and then, but he wasn't like he got all of his tech from them. You know, that's not how it was. In the cartoon, though, Ultimate Spider-Man, a lot of that did happen. Like his web shooters, not necessarily his initial web shooters were his design, but he upgraded them with shield tech to have different abilities and stuff, kind of like how they had in the Homecoming. He had all this different tech and stuff that, you know, the shield would give him, or let's say Tony Stark would design for him and stuff like that. And to me, that gets away from the core of Spider-Man's character. So in the movie, I didn't mind it as much because, like I said, they have to make the character fit the story that they're trying to tell. And to make him be like Robert Downey Jr.'s little brother and he's trying to show him some things, it's understandable because you can, trying to think of my words here, you can put that whole story dynamic in there and that could be a part of his movie. And that's pretty much what they did. So a lot of people I know don't like the suit and everything like that. That to me, I'm fine with, because if Tony Stark were to give him something, that's what it would be. You know what I'm saying? And by him being a kid and looking up to the Avengers, that's understandable that he would be like, oh, you got this new suit? Yeah, word, I'll do anything you say, because he's a kid. He doesn't know any better. And throughout the course of the movie, I'm guessing that was Tony's storyline in the movie, was he was trying to teach Peter Parker how not to be, let's say, as reckless or to be responsible in the ways of thinking about other angles, not just, oh, I got to stop the bad guy. But, you know, basically try to put some adult perspective into him if he's going to be out there saving people and putting other people at risk, and also himself. And so I didn't mind, you know, the upgrades that much. It fits the story that they're trying to tell. What I do mind, however, is, and I don't know if this was on Sony's end or if this was on Marvel's end, I don't know who made this decision, but introducing characters in the movie who aren't themselves, that's a big problem to me. I've always been somebody, I hate when they blackwash or whitewash a character just for the sake of, oh, well, we need more black people in this movie. Oh, we need to make this character white because, you know, it is what it is. Or we need to have like a female character. I hate that. I understand it. I truly understand why people are going towards that in this modern day and age. Don't get me wrong. I love people for that. But at the same time, I hate when you change established characters. Like, that would be like them just making a new Spider-Man movie and having Spider-Man be black. Now, granted, being as a black man, it's like, okay, I would love to see more black superheroes being portrayed. That's cool. But at the same time, just to make Spider-Man black and just to say, oh, anybody can be Spider-Man. No, they can't. And the reason why, I'll say this. Yes, anybody can be a superhero, whether you're black, white, Native American, Middle Eastern, what have you. That's not what I'm trying to discredit. I'm discrediting that you have, like, Peter Parker's lifestyle, given when he came out, 50s and 60s. That's not a black person's origin. Ain't no black person gonna be living in Queens, you know, not going through the struggle. That's just the way it is, YouTube. It is what it is. So you can't just take his character, give him the same backstory, and just be like, okay, now he's black. It's like, no, that doesn't fit. It's not realistic. That's like saying Batman, when his character came out, oh, let's make him a black millionaire in a time when black people didn't have shit. No, doesn't work. Does not fit. Now, I'm not saying you can't have another black character come up, like how they did Miles Morales, the newer Ultimate Spider-Man. He's a separate character that they made, had him in the comics for a little bit. Then they actually gave him powers, and then he's his own person. That's how I want to see it done. You know, you have to give a new character substance. You can't just slap another character's name or face on them and expect them to be the same thing. And that was my main gripe with Homecoming. Like, if I had to pick something that pissed me the fuck off, it would be them doing that. Like, they basically took his, if you've seen the movie, he has this sidekick character with him. In the movie, they call him Ned Leeds. That is not Ned Leeds. His character is Genki. In the Ultimate line of Spider-Man comic books, his character does exist. His name is Genki. He's somebody who he goes to school with, somebody he's friends with. That character does exist, but it is not Ned Leeds in any way, shape, or form. Ned Leeds was a character from the original Spider-Man comic books who was, I think he became the first Hobgoblin. That's who his character was. He's a whole separate character. Never went to school with Peter Parker. Didn't do none of that shit. You know? And I just hate it when they do that, because it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, well, why'd they do that? What did naming this character Ned Leeds have to do with anything in their movie? And I'll tell you, it wasn't a goddamn thing. Not a goddamn thing. It didn't change nothing. They could have called him Genki and just left it at that. You know, just left it at that. Nobody would have cared. Now, maybe they had the reasons. Maybe they didn't want to call him Genki because he was like Asian or Hawaiian or something. So maybe they didn't want to seem like they were giving him like an Asian name to be an Asian stereotype. That I can understand. I totally understand. You're making a movie. You're trying to get the most amount of money out of people. Maybe they didn't want to have him be the smart Asian kid stereotype. Totally agree with that. But at the same time, I would have preferred it if they'd have just made up a name. Let's say call him something like, I don't know. I don't know any Hawaiian names, YouTube. Let's just say he's Asian, and let's call him like Timothy Yamada. You know, just, you know, picking a name out of a hat. You know, doesn't matter. But let's say he's like, oh yeah, my name is Timothy Yamada. My friends call me Genki. And let's say throughout the rest of the movie, either Peter Parker called him Genki or called him Tim. Would have had no problems with the movie whatsoever. Or at least out of his character when it comes to that. Another problem. This Michelle chick. Zendaya, whatever her name is. You had the throwaway line at the end of the movie. Like, oh, my friends call me MJ. Fuck that. Ooh, YouTube, that got my blood boiling. I had to take blood pressure medicine after that. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, again, you're throwing you're throwing some initials in there that carry some weight in Spider-Man's mythos. Fuck no, you are not Mary Jane. Now, granted, I think they said she wasn't Mary Jane. Her name was Michelle or whatever the fuck her name was, right? But it's one of those things where it's like, why say that at all? They knew when they gave her that line that it was going to be something like that. You know what I'm saying? That they were going to have issues when it came to that because because of you saying that. Why even have that and piss off every Spider-Man fan? That doesn't make no fucking sense. Her character doesn't even exist in the comic books in any way, shape, or form. There is no Michelle, what's her name? You know? So it didn't matter that, they didn't have to say she was MJ. Now, granted, even though it was just a bullshit line, I think that's one of those things where you don't throw in there. You know what I'm saying? It's just, no, they shouldn't have done that. Granted, even in future movies, if they do decide to introduce MJ or something like that, I don't know if they are. I mean, they could stretch things out for a few movies and not introduce her. But then it's going to be like, well, why she say that line anyway? You know what I'm saying? I just think they fucked up. And I don't know why they did that. I just think it was stupid. Maybe they're throwing it out there to see if people would like her character, and then, maybe they're going to dye her hair for the next movie, and then, oh, wow, she's MJ. Maybe they're testing the waters, but that's a fucked up way to do it. You don't do that. Because Mary Jane, is her name. It's not like, oh, her name is Michelle, but everybody calls her MJ. No, fuck no. That's a whole different name, whole different character. Outside of that, though, another thing that, I'm not going to say it pissed me off, but I don't understand it. Indian Flash Thompson? What the fuck? WTF with like 5 exclamation points, YouTube. It doesn't make sense. Maybe in this newer universe, I don't see why. Maybe they didn't want to do the jock stereotype. I don't know. I think it would have been better that way, because then, I'm sorry, like, how do you be somebody who's smart and then gets bullied? I don't understand that, especially by somebody who isn't like a bully. Like, I can't call Flash Thompson in Homecoming like, oh, he bullied Peter Parker. No, he was just a dick. It doesn't make no sense, and that's not Flash's character at all in any way, shape, or form. Certainly not from the main Spider-Man comic books. Like, I can understand if like they didn't want to make Flash Thompson be like a football player jock. but let's say he still actually physically bullied him in school, like in the hallways or something like that, that's something I can understand. Maybe they didn't want to feed into the whole stereotype, but still have him be bullied. Or maybe, let's say, Flash Thompson show Spider-Man walking home or something from school, and then have Flash go to another school or something, and have them be like, oh, I hate you, I hate you, Parker, because, maybe he was somebody who flunked out of school or something like that. I'd have rather seen that than, let's say, Indian Flash Thompson being, a dumb nerd. Because that's essentially what he was. He was mad at Peter Parker because Peter Parker was smarter than him. Why? Who knows? And if he's such a dumb person when it comes to the materials, why was he a part of their little nerd, smart team or whatever they were? I forget what they were. But they were a part of some kind of like after school team or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That will go around to different events and do contests and stuff like that. Why was he a part of that team if he wasn't good enough? It doesn't make sense, YouTube. And granted, it's just one of those things where it's like, again, what the fuck? I don't see a reason why they changed it. How did this change your movie or make the movie appear different or make it be better in any kind of way? It didn't. It was just one of those things where it's like, oh, let's just change it just to be different. And that's what I hate. I hate when they introduce story elements that just change stuff for no apparent reason. If Flash Thompson was going to be, let's say, a part of the storyline in some kind of way, and there was a reason why they did that change that would fit the movie or to make it better, I'd be like, well, you know what? They had to do it. Again, maybe they could justify it that way. I just don't see it. Same thing goes for Vulture's daughter, Liz Allen. I think that was her name, Liz Allen. I think it was Liz. Liz Allen in the comic books is not the Vulture's daughter. Again, same thing like Genki. They made up a character and then slapped somebody else's name on it. Again, why? Served no purpose. In the comic books, Liz Allen was somebody Peter Parker actually knew. He didn't, I think she wasn't super close to him, but they were like friends at some point. I think she actually got married to Harry Osborn, his best friend's, wife or whatever. But it's one of those things where it's like, again, that's not Vulture's daughter at all in any way, shape, or form. They haven't even met as far as I know, And it's one of those things where it's like they didn't have to do that. They could have just made up a name. Just give Michael Keaton, have him have a daughter and be like, oh, my daughter's name is Teresa or something. They could have just did that and the movie would have been fine. I would have had no problems with it. But no, they had to slap her fucking name on there. Just because, let's pick a name out of Spider-Man's hat. Oh, Liz Allen, that's a girl's name. Let's give her that. Fuck no. Hell no. Unless something changed in the Ultimate line of comic books, and I don't think that is, because I don't recall the Vulture being in the Ultimate line of comic books, but maybe he did have a book or something with Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't know. And I don't recall Liz Allen's character being in Ultimate Spider-Man, but I'm gonna go look that up after the video. But I don't think that was the case, and I think they just slapped her name, on her character, and just ran with the ball. So again, not a big fan of those changes. Those are probably my most biggest things that I have gripes about the movie. Everything else, I was pretty much okay. Michael Keaton as the Vulture, I think he killed it. Again, he was one of those bad guys, like I said in my last commentary talking about heroism. He's a justifiable supervillain. They put him in that perspective where you understood where he was coming from. You understood the reasons why he was doing things. He wasn't just a bad guy just robbing shit to be robbing shit. His job got cut off and he had to find other means to provide for his family. That's every man out here in the world for the most part. So completely understandable. Granted, I think I would have chose a different profession. I wouldn't have just went straight into just, let's just start robbing shit. I'd have stole that tech and made other tech and then tried to profit off that tech. I'd have probably took that into being like the next Tony Stark or whatever, but I wouldn't have just started robbing the government. You don't do that when times get hard, YouTube, just saying. But definitely like Michael Keaton being the Vulture. The change to his backstory, I didn't mind that at all. I actually liked it. The original backstory for the Vulture in the comic books was just, I'm just some old dude who had, this wingsuit and could fly around. That was as big as his story ever got. I think they gave him more stuff even in like the early 90s Spider-Man cartoon where he was an old guy stealing life from people trying to be young. You know, trying to be young again. So I think that would have been too weird for the, well, not weird because you have Doctor Strange, so it wouldn't have been weird for the cinematic universe to do that, but it's not as grounded as, you know, Spider-Man normally is in the comic books. So I can understand why they didn't go with that. Love the change to his backstory. Like I said, Spider-Man with the suit and all the different suit and the suit talking to him, I'm fine with that. That comes with Tony Stark. That's, you know, that's what he does. I'm trying to think of some other things that I really didn't like, but the overarching story of the movie, I kind of knew that ahead of time. I'm somebody who watch, you know, I watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of superhero movies. When I seen the trailer, I knew what kind of movie this was going to be. I knew it was going to be a coming-of-age story, and that's pretty much what it was. So it's a Hollywood trope they've been doing since movies began. You know, it's definitely nothing new. I knew Marvel wasn't going to change the boat or, you know, make something completely new that we haven't seen before as far as storytelling like that. But I will say there were a couple things that bugged me, and I don't know if they had reasons for doing this or not. They didn't show him with his spider sense. I don't know why that is, because that's a part of his power set, Ultimate Spider-Man or 616 Spider-Man. I don't understand why they didn't just have that, even if you didn't want to do, I think the reason why, because I read a couple articles, they said, you know, the reason why they didn't want to do it is because they wanted to be different, and you saw that introduced in all of the older Spider-Man movies. I'm like, well, why didn't you just give it to him and not do the whole slow-mo thing? Why not just have one scene with it? You don't have to do it for every scene where somebody attacks him, but just have like one scene at the beginning of the movie, have like a couple seconds where something slows down, where he senses it, and then moves out the way. And then throughout the rest of the movie, just show him dodging stuff, and then, you know, lead into that. That's, you know, you don't have to show slow down every time something happens. But I just think it's stupid, because now you're going on the assumption, like, does he have his spider sense or not? You know, and if they don't, then it's like, are you taking that away from him? And if not, but if why are you taking away powers? But I think it's one of those things where it's like they just didn't do anything with it this movie. But I think in the follow-up movies that he's going to be in, they're going to have, you know, him have the spider sense. And if that's the case, maybe they could throw in there, like, maybe since he just got his powers, maybe he doesn't understand them yet, so he doesn't know what it is. Or maybe he's just late blooming with his spider sense. I mean, you know, they could do it like that too. I don't know how they're going to do it. But that was one thing that kind of bugged me. Something else that bugged me, they never really showed him web slinging at all. Like, you had like a couple scenes of him webbing something and going somewhere, but they never showed him like web slinging through New York or to get to places. Huge problem. You know, that's Spider-Man's thing, is his webs and web slinging and everything like that. That's something that I can say honestly is unique to Spider-Man. Only him and the people who, let's say, know him by association or have had his powers do. You know, let's say Spider-Man, Venom, Carnage, Kane, Scarlet Spider, old and new, and all the other Spider people, Spider-Gwen, all the alternate reality, hell, even the evil version of Spider-Man, Demogoblin from the 90s, they all web slinged because they were Spider-esque people, and they all got it from Spider-Man. You know, if you're not affiliated with Spider-Man, you do not web sling. That's what I'm trying to say. I can't even name another superhero in Marvel or DC that web slings. just like Spider-Man. Can't do it. Can't do it, YouTube. So to have Spider-Man not web sling in a Spider-Man movie is one of those things where it's like, what the fuck, man? You know, don't understand it. I would have appreciated, I mean, if that's what they were going to go with, I would have appreciated a scene or something in there where, like, let's say he tried to do it, and let's say he got messed up some kind of way or what have you. But they showed him slinging around in Civil War during that airport scene. So it's like, I don't understand why they didn't have it in his movie. Hell, they showed it in Civil War, when Tony Stark went to him to recruit him, and he popped out that little video of him making YouTube videos, you know, web slinging and saving people. So it's like, why not have it in his movie? I don't understand that. They showed him running on the ground or fighting on the ground half the time, and I think him and the Vulture only took it to the air during their fight, like, what, twice throughout the movie? The first time when he flew him up in the air and dropped him, and the second time when they was doing the whole end fight scene on the plane. It was just one of those things where it's like, that's like having Superman and you not giving him invulnerability, or you're not having him fly. It's like, what? That goes against who the character is. You know, that's something iconic that they do. So that was something that kind of bugged me. Something I didn't like, and I don't know if they pulled this from the Ultimate line of comic books, but Shocker. In this, Shocker was, I guess, really a gang of 3 people, or maybe just one person, and he just wanted to call himself the Shocker until Michael Keaton killed him, and you know, things like that in the movie. But it was basically a gang of 3 people with souped up weapons. Again, I don't know if that's from the Ultimate line of comic books. It could have been. I don't recall Shocker being in there, but I haven't read a lot of the end Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. I kind of dropped out after they killed Peter Parker, things like that, and maybe I missed the issue if they had, you know, Shocker being a gang versus just one person. I know in the Ultimate line of comic books they did that a lot. Like Galactus in the main 616 comic books is, you know, the devourer of worlds. You know, you can't not know who Galactus is. But when it comes to the Ultimate line of comic books, he was like, here I am, an artificial intelligence machine that was dispersed throughout everything. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like one core body of him. So maybe they did the same with the Shocker, and that's where they pulled that from. But if they didn't, then that's something I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. Because the Shocker is a bad guy of Spider-Man. His name is Herman Schultz. You know, prison guy. He breaks out of prison or gets released and goes right back into crime. He's one of the low-level Spider-Man villains that he fights every now and then. I'm somebody who, I liked his character. To have his character be non-existent in the movie, it's like, okay, well, why call them the Shockers then if they didn't pull that from the Ultimate line of comic books? That was something that bugged me. Something that also bugged me, and I know this is a personal quirk of mine. I think they brought in what was his name?
Beacon in place. See you later.
I can't think of the guy's name. It's I know he's on Atlanta right now. If you guys seen Spider-Man Homecoming, he was the black kids, and I'll get to this part in a moment. He was the one black guy that Spider-Man interrogated for information as far as where Joker's whereabouts was. I know he's been in multiple stuff. I like him as an actor in what he does, but for him to be, I forget what his name was, but he's like Miles' uncle, the Prowler. The Prowler was a character in comic books who was a thief character, so it fits that. I just don't like him as the Prowler because the Prowler was like a grown man. He was 25, 30 years old, something like that, right? This guy, I mean, I don't know how old he is, but he just looks like a kid to me. Every time I see him, he looks like he's like 18 or 19. I think he's like 20-something. I think he's just short and has a small build. But it's just one of those things where it's just a personal quirk of mine. I can't knock Marvel or whatever for choosing him because I know he's popular in people who like what he does. So scooping him up, you know, to be in a movie, that's just fine for them. But it's just a personal quirk of mine. When I think of the Prowler, I think of the adult version of him because he's never been a kid in any medium. So that's the version I go with. Hell, even on the Spider-Man cartoon show in the 90s, he was a grown man, you know. So it's like every time I see him, it's like I think he's a kid. That's like me looking at the guy who's playing Spider-Man in this movie and thinking he's an adult. It's like, no, it just wouldn't work to me. And that's just, oops, excuse me, actually bumped my mic stand. Talking with my hands, YouTube. But that's one of the things that you know, that kind of bugs me whenever I see him and stuff, especially when he's playing. If he's not playing an already established character, I don't mind it. But that's just one of the things where it's like, you know, it's a personal quirk of mine. So I mean, I can forgive that. But speaking on that incident there, that incident was funny as hell because I loved how the suit had all these different functions and stuff that Peter didn't know about. And I remember in the movie he was like, "Oh, we need to go, find some, we need to go find this guy to get information out of him." And the suit was like, "Do you want to go to enhanced interrogation mode?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I swear to God, I was like, I wonder if they're gonna make him sound like Batman. And then he came out there and was like, "Where's the Vulture?" And I was like, "Oh shit, they making him sound like Batman." I thought that was funny as hell. I actually died laughing when I seen that scene. Loved it. Out of all the other, jokes in the movie, the other jokes I wasn't really laughing all that much. I would chuckle every now and then if I found something funny, but that was something that actually made me broke out laughing when I seen it. Thought that was funny because that was like the first thing that came on my mind, and I was like, maybe I'm getting too old for comic book movies or for movies in general, because I can see what's gonna happen based on just prior moviegoer experience. But that was just funny as hell when I seen it. I do think a few other scenes in there were done pretty good. The whole Washington Monument scene I thought was pretty cool too as well. The end fight scene of him fighting the Vulture on the plane, I thought that was done very well. The Vulture's reason, or the big threat of the movie, was him getting Tony Stark's technology. I thought that was, pretty good. I like that. That was a good low-key motivation to raise the stakes, because Tony Stark's technology can change the world if it fell into the wrong hands. Granted, my problem with that is the reason, the reason I had a problem with that is, if you're gonna steal a crate full of arc reactors, why wasn't Tony guarding it? Like, that's something he would jump into. Like, he would be protecting his own tech, not Spider-Man. That was a problem. There was a storyline in the comic books called the Armor Wars with Iron Man. I think it came out in the late 80s. But that's when his tech got out there and people started making copies of Iron Man suits and things like that. Tony was like, fuck that. He went on like a personal crusade and went to everybody who had a piece of his tech, and he shut it down or destroyed it. That's how obsessive he is with his technology. If I had to throw a comic book analogy in there, he's obsessive with his technology like Batman is obsessive with being stealthy and being in the darkness and stuff. that's what that goes together. So to have like Spider-Man protecting Tony Stark's interests in technology, I'm like, where's Iron Man at? You're telling me he's gonna have a crate full of arc reactors and like there was even like an Iron Man suit in there at one point. Now, granted, Vulture was only there for like the Iron Man, reactors and stuff like that. But it's one of the things where it's like you're telling me he's not even, he's not gonna protect his technology, even if he had Friday, his newest AI, follow the plane with like remote controlled Iron Man suits or something. You're telling me he has no protection at all for his tech that he's obsessive with? Fuck, though. Get the hell out of that. It just didn't make sense to me, YouTube. I wish they'd have changed that up a little bit differently. Like if like I said, if he'd had Friday, let's say, protect the plane with like 4 Iron Man suits or whatever, and let's say you had the Vulture come in there, destroy the suits, then board the plane with his alien technology, that would have been more believable than just having just nothing on the plane at all. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that bugged me. But overall, I mean, just to end the commentary here, because I know we're like 30 minutes into this video and I can just keep talking for days. But just my overall impressions of the movie is, I thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't great. It didn't hit that high bar to me. My favorite Spider-Man movie is probably Spider-Man 2. So like I can't even, it didn't. I don't even know if it was better than Spider-Man 1. To be honest, I will say, maybe it's better than Spider-Man 1, but I think it's definitely better than the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. It's a hell of a lot better than Spider-Man 3. I think anything is better. Marvel could have just shat on film and that would have been better than Spider-Man 3. But I think it was just under 2. Like, if I had to pick, it's probably my second favorite Spider-Man movie. The problem with Marvel making the universe like this, though, is I don't see where they can go. I know Spider-Man Homecoming is going to make billions of dollars probably. But it's one of those things where I don't think Sony, because I know Sony, eventually they're going to want to do things with the Spider-Man property. and it's rumored that they're making a Venom movie, they're making a Black Cat and Silver Sable movie, and it's one of those things where they're trying to pump out as much Spider-Man material as possible. And I know I've been saying this for years. Like it's like Spider-Man has one of the biggest rogues galleries or characters that are tied to him than any other superhero out there, bar none. And Sony just didn't do shit with his property. They had him fight, oh, let's have him fight Doc Ock. Oh, let's have him fight the Green Goblin. Like, they didn't do shit with his character. Like, Spider-Man has so many villains, it's ridiculous. Hell, or even, I've been even saying this for years. Make up a villain. How about that? Do what the comics do. The comic books, every once in a while, they'll have Spider-Man fight a villain that they just make up. Hell, they made up all the Spider-Man's bad guys. I mean, if you want to be technical. Why not just make up a villain that doesn't exist before in the comic books? Have him fight somebody different. You know, they don't have to stick with just what the comics do. I mean, if it's their property in their universe, they can do whatever the hell they want to do with it. And I just think it's one of the things like that. I think that Sony is going to try to ride Spider-Man Homecoming's success. And I think Spider-Man's success in Marvel's cinematic universe is going to be good. But honestly, judging from what I'm hearing about the rest of the movies they want to make, I think they're fucking up, YouTube. They're falling right back into the same line of, oh, we're planning to do this, that, or the other, but we're not thinking about the consequences. Like, they're talking about making Venom a comedy movie. Number one, you can't have Venom without Spider-Man. That's bar none. Without Venom, you can't have Carnage. So they can't make like a Venom and Carnage movie and not have Spider-Man be in it because, number one, he has to get the suit. That's first and foremost. No matter what origin you go with, main 616, he gets him from space during the Secret Wars. Ultimate Universe, his dad and Eddie Brock's dad creates it in a lab or whatever, and they both use it like that. Again, Spider-Man gets it first, and then Eddie Brock gets it. And that's why Venom has the same powers as Spider-Man. Without that, you know, if you don't have the suit bond to Spider-Man, Venom doesn't have any superpowers. Yeah, he may have like a little bit of enhanced strength, but the symbiote doesn't automatically give him, oh, let Spider-Man has powers to cling the walls or web sling and do all this extra shit. It got that from Spider-Man. You know, that's why his spider sense doesn't work when Venom fights him. It's for that same reason. So you can't do that without Spider-Man. But yet they're talking about making a Venom Carnage movie into a comedy. They're talking about making a Black Cat and Silver Sable like a team-up buddy cop type movie? What the fuck? You have to include them in a Spider-Man movie to begin with because nobody knows who the hell those characters are. Hell, even most Spider-Man fans will probably only recognize Black Cat. You have to get somebody like myself to know who Silver Sable is. Like, I bet you probably most of everybody watching this video probably don't know who the hell Silver Sable is. You know? It's just one of those things where it's like you're introducing characters and just picking and choosing characters and planning movies around them, and you don't think of the consequences. Like, it's like at all. It's like you have to. They're fucking up. That's what I'm trying to say. They're fucking up. They're falling into the same vein of what they was doing before, where they're just trying to make something work and not thinking about the consequences. If it were me, and I'm gonna end the video with this topic here. If it were me. If I was the one in charge of Sony making movies, right? What I say goes. My word was law. It was the biggest and the blackest law in Sony. What I would do, YouTube, would be I would do this. Number one, you have Miles Morales. They've already established him in the movies or will establish him in the movies. That's a given, right? I would let Spider-Man be Spider-Man for Marvel. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, be Spider-Man for Marvel. I would introduce Miles Morales in, let's say, Spider-Man Homecoming 2, whatever the movie is. Introduce Miles Morales. Introduce Oscorp. Norman Osborn, all of that stuff, because you have to have him eventually in Spider-Man or whatever. But you give Miles powers as like a side effect in that movie. Let's say he gets bit, but you don't see him do none of the Spider-Man stuff. He don't become Spider-Man. Let's say Spider-Man saves him or something in that movie. Let's say he gets caught up in a villain fight or whatever. Have Peter Parker save him in Spider-Man Homecoming 2. And have him going forward like, oh, I got these powers. This guy saved me. I got to do something with my powers. Now, you have a Spider-Man in Sony's universe that they can do whatever the hell they want to do with him. If Marvel wants to bring him in for a movie, fine. But you have a character in your lineup that you can make Spider-Man movies with and have it be him. And people would love a black Spider-Man. Like I said, if they just don't come out and be like, oh, here's this black Spider-Man and fuck Peter Parker. If they do it right and establish his character in a movie and then make a follow-up movie, people will be more receptive to, to his movies. And then you can have Miles go through reimagined versions of Spider-Man's bad guys. If you want, have him fight Electro, have him fight Silver Sable, or something like that. Have, if I don't even see how you can introduce Black Cat without Peter Parker, but have if they wanted to take the newer Black Cat, like her the way she is in the comic now, she's a crime boss, and she's like, for those of you who don't know, Black Cat is like Marvel's Catwoman. So she was the fling of Spider-Man that kind of was off and on again, and she flirts with being a criminal and a thief and all that kind of sort of stuff. But she has helped Spider-Man stop Venom and bad guys, in the 90s and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where if they had to pick and choose, and if you really wanted her to be in a movie, you could just be like, you know what, this is the new Black Cat we're going with. She's a criminal bad guy, whatever, right? Have Miles fight her. Have Miles fight Silver Sable and her mercenary group. Have, Miles fight other bad guys and stuff outside of the Marvel universe. That's what I'm trying to get. Have him do stuff outside Marvel's universe, and then you have the freedom to do anything you want without fucking up Spider-Man's continuity. You can't have Miles fight Venom and then he somehow got the whole Venom thing and doing you can't do that. But take other characters and from Spider-Man's, rogues gallery and from his history in the comic books and have Miles deal with all that. Hell, if Sony had any balls, bring in Spider-Man 2099. Do like Marvel did in the comic books with that, or what, let's say, Batman Beyond did for the Batman continuity. Batman Beyond came out as a television show, but since people liked him so much, they rolled him in the comic books. Just like how they did Harley Quinn. And I want to say, I think Clayface was also like that. Also, I think Red Claw from the animated series, I think she was like that too. Do something like that, where you have Spider-Man 2099. You have him be the future Spider-Man. Now you have another franchise of movies about him and Miguel O'Hara being Spider-Man in the future. And then you can have him come back in time and do something with Peter Parker or Miles, and then that's a whole other movie. You know what I'm saying? That's the way they should do it. And then you have multiple movies of Spider-Man if you wanted to do that. If they wanted to do that, hell, or do the whole clone thing. Now you got Ben Reilly. You have Kane. You can have Kane be the Scarlet Spider. Now you have a whole other Spider-Man to deal with and have him be Spider-Man for another city, like he was in the comic books when he came back. There's so many options that they can do, but it's like, I just feel that at Sony, the guy or committee or the team that they have who's making these decisions don't know fucking comic books at all, and they're not even fans of the medium probably, and they're making these decisions, making these movies, and they have no concept of what the fuck they're talking about, YouTube. That's what I'm trying to say. I just think that they can do a whole hell of a lot better if they plan things out accordingly, just like Marvel did when they was first coming out. So it's just one of those things where I think we're going to just have to see how Sony rolls with follow-up movies, and I think they're going to fuck up, but hopefully they'll get, I thought they learned their lesson with the older Spider-Man movies, but I guess not. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just see this as a shot in the arm and took it as a placebo, and they're like, oh, people like us now. Now we can do anything we want. No, fuck that. But anyways, guys, sorry for rambling on. I meant this to be only a 15-minute video, but ended up being 48 minutes and 55 seconds. But if you guys seen Spider-Man Homecoming, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Or if you want to comment on anything I've said in the video or talked about in the video, let me also know that down in the comments below. My name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.